I want to step away from world genres for a while and talk about something that. Okay, why am I yawning now? I don't yawn the whole day, and now I yawn because I'm filming a video. Um, I want to talk about something that I find very interesting in stories, something I enjoy a lot, but something that is very difficult to do on anything but the smallest scale without things getting either silly or out of control or just falling apart. Um, that thing is intrigue. Um, and intrigue in this case is kind of the drama version of it. Personal intrigues, rivalries, scheming, people going behind the backs of others, people keeping secrets, that kind of stuff. And I like it because it is a mystery without being the mystery. It can be the mystery. You can make a mystery story with a lot of intrigue, and some of the intrigue, perhaps a lot of the intrigue, is part of the mystery. Why did some person do some crime? Because of all these connections to all this and that. But what really fascinates me about intrigue is how, if done well, it becomes a web of connections between people and things and places and organizations and so many other things, um, that you can explore the same way you can explore a landscape or a city, or that you can map out the functions of a spaceship or something like that. It becomes a thing in and of itself. Now, what is intrigue in practical terms? First of all, intrigue is not entirely a genre. Um, it does lean towards being a plot genre, but it doesn't really get there entirely because intrigue in itself has no purpose. A mystery has a purpose. You need to figure out what's going on. Thriller has the purpose of achieving something before things go bad. Horror has the purpose. Oh God, damn it! The purpose of surviving, usually, perhaps even defeating evil, but at least surviving. Intrigue is just there. It's more of a layer on top of other structures, other plot genres. Mystery intrigue, as I talked about, but you can also have thriller intrigue, horror intrigue with a lot of different people doing a lot of horrible things, and you don't really know who to trust. You don't know who the killer is or who the dark cultist is. Action intrigue, who is your actual enemy, and why is person X doing this when you thought they would do something else? Who's pulling their strings and how? And so on and so forth. So intrigue kind of lays on top of another plot genre, one or more. Hello, socks. But in practicality, intrigue is essentially a map. The same way you would make a map connecting cities for your world, or a city map connecting neighborhoods or special locations that are important for your story. Intrigue is a map of the relations between things, the important relations, who owns something, who has dirt on someone, who is in love with someone, who was in a certain place at a certain time, um, what connection does a certain place have to a certain event, and so on. And just like in mysteries where you uncover clues one by one, in intrigue, you uncover these little relations one by one, and some of them may be hinted at, some of them may be hinted at wrongly. You may misinterpret them, but the more of them you get right, the better you will be able to find your way around this web of relations. And that might seem like duh, like something that would be obvious to anyone. But when designing intrigue, and I do mean designing, not writing, when designing intrigue, a lot of people tend to forget that and take the intrigue more or less for granted. If you got enough people with enough back history, intrigue is going to, well, hello, intrigue is going to automatically just be there. No, it's not. You need to connect the dots, and you need to do it. I don't know if manually makes sense here, but you need to connect each of the dots yourself. This is not as much work as it might seem. Connecting two dots can be as quick as picking a word to describe a relation. Old hatred, lovers, owner, um, witness at an event, fondness for a location, could be a person who likes walking around on the beach and therefore has this relation to a local beach. Each relation can be set up fairly easily, with major relations being maybe a little more demanding if you want to make them stand out. You don't need to, but quite often, relations very important to a story be given will be given more detail, and maybe be made a little more original. But it's not that every relation has to be something clever. It's that the totality of the relations, the sum of all the relations, creates an interesting map between people. And a lot of that interest comes when some relations are unexpected. Doesn't have to be many, maybe 1 in 5, maybe even just 1 in 10 relations is unexpected. Two rival families with members that are friends or even lovers, a person who is not expected to ever go to a certain location, an event that is not expected to have anything to do at all with a certain item, but still they happen. And even a single unexpected relation can make an entire map of relations seem more bizarre, is maybe a too big a word for it, but more unusual. The unexpected nature of a single relation will reflect in the other relations. Just as if you have a map where there is a weird connection between two places, it will affect how people get around the map. So when I talk about getting around this map, I mentioned it before. What do I mean by it? What I mean is, in intrigue, a lot of actions are not direct. If you want to make someone do something, you don't just tell them to do it. You inform them that you know of their relation to this and that, and you may do something they don't want, or you may do something they do want. If they do what you ask of them, it becomes about pulling strings in a large web of relations rather than just poking right at whoever you're dealing with. If you want someone powerful to stop being a nuisance, you could inform them that, hey, we know that your daughter is having an affair with someone you don't want others to know she's having an affair with. So maybe just lay off. You can throw wrenches in the work by knowing the right places to do so. Maybe if it turns out that someone is highly dependent on a location, you can avoid having to confront them directly and instead just block off that location, keep them from it. Maybe if someone has something stashed um, at a former crime scene, all you need to do is get your police buddies to swarm that crime scene and log it down because there's more evidence there, and suddenly your criminal or whatever doesn't have access to it any longer. Intrigue, when done right, in my personal opinion, is about handling things indirectly by knowing how to navigate the map of relations. And I find that utterly fascinating. I'm not sure I'm going to even be able to justify that. I don't know if I should need to justify it. Um, but because of that, I would like to use a few videos to go into different kinds of intrigue. You can use this on a high level. You can have high and low intrigue um stories, or even high and low intrigue worlds for your stories. In low intrigue, it's usually about a few expected and a few unexpected relations that give pressure points and explain some things that are out of the ordinary. Um, Maybe someone saw something, someone powerful saw something, and is therefore terrified of someone else, and it doesn't make any sense. Why would this powerful politician be terrified of some average, nondescript working nobody? Because that politician saw that nondescript nobody beat a local mob boss to a pulp, and now knows that this is a person not to be trifled with, and this is a person who doesn't like people who take advantage of others. So this powerful person is suddenly very cautious about what he or she is doing, and that will only make sense once you find out that they actually saw this, that they actually know this about the other person. And if the main characters don't know this about the other person, then it will require them finding that out too. Um, that those are very low intrigue relations. They're very direct, they're very consequential, and they are very few. High intrigue stories or worlds will have a huge number of relations, of which most will probably be fairly predictable, perhaps even to the point of being falling into certain categories. You have people who are loyal to their employer. You have people who love their spouses. You have people who are connected to certain places in ways you'd expect it. They frequent certain places, or they own certain places, and all that's pretty straightforward. But those few relations that are not straightforward are the ones that cause everything to become more complicated. So it's not about every relation, again, it's not about every relation being unique and brilliantly thought out. It's just about a lot of relations being there and mixed together in one big web, and a few relations being unexpected. Not even completely out of the blue, but just not what you expected. And because there are so many relations, high intrigue stories or worlds can quickly become about knowing where to pull and push on those relations. You want to get some government agent to look at something the government agents might not be into. Well, you slip some hint to the guy you know whose sister is married to an agent, and he will tell her most things that he hears that he thinks that agent will react to. So you slip some interesting clues there, and suddenly an agent shows up because they found out through the wife who found out through the person you told him. Um, you want to get access to some place. Well, maybe you make those who control the place believe that someone they are rivals with have planted something problematic there, and you pose as someone who can offer a solution to it. If you know the right relations, and if you know how to manipulate those relations, including your own relations, your own being the main character's relations, if you know how to do that, you can tell an entire story from someone just pulling the threads on this big web of relations. And I find that to be a delightful departure from people using guns, cars, fists, and the like to solve problems. I like the idea of a map of relations being navigated in a clever way. But of course, you can also overdo it and go into soap opera style intrigue where it's just it just bounces from being a bunch of completely predictable um, relations that get blown out of proportion to completely out of the blue ridiculous relationships that just make no sense, or that should have been discovered long ago, but for the sake of the story they were not. And that's when you got your whole amnesia storylines, or I'm not even going to say love triangles because it's usually like love 14 angles or something, love polygons. And that's taking it a bit too far. How much intrigue you want is entirely up to you. You can have zero, you can have a little, or low intrigue storylines, or you can have a lot, high intrigue storylines, or you can just go completely ridiculous and have soap operas with surprise relations around every corner. oh my God, you're my brother's sister's brother, brother if sister, but yet we are not related to one another. How is that? Silly stuff like that. I don't watch soap operas, so I don't have very good examples. I don't. I only have the examples that I hear other people tell from examples from soap operas. I have watched a few episodes of soap operas in my life, and or parts of them, parts of a few episodes, and I do not. That's not the level of intrigue that I enjoy. But if done right, intrigue can add a very fascinating layer to a story and an opportunity to resolve things through something other than direct action.